I've been away for a little bit, and this is a new topic for me. People might be surprised to see me talk about this, but I think it's something worth discussing and something that isn't receiving enough attention or the right kind of attention. And so I'm going to do what I can to give it that. Part of it has to do with the Black Lives Matter movement. If you're not familiar with it, I don't know if you're living under a rock or what's going on, but I'll play a short clip.
And we're going to honor all of the Black Lives Lost this year, and we're going to honor the fact that I have to fight through all these people who said, my life matters! That I have to get up here in front of a bunch of screaming white racists to say my life fucking matters! How dare you!
So the reason I'd show that clip is not necessarily to endorse or to condemn their specific tactics, and no, I don't think that's the best way to go about protesting. And it's received a ton of criticism from all angles, from white people, from black people, from people within Black Lives Matter. It's not just it wasn't well received. But why I'd play that is to show that she's breaking down. She's almost in tears, and I'm assuming she's not crazy, right? I mean, I'm assuming she's not just a crazy person. She's a person who's feeling something and she's trying to express it. She's trying to express anger, anger and sadness. I mean, she's not happy about the way things are in America, and she wants it to change. And we can question her strategies, but I think that's not the only thing to take away from that moment at the rally in Seattle. But the way that our society has treated black people for a very long time has led to a certain kind of a result. And let me show you one example of that.
Which doll is the black doll?
This one.
And which one is the white doll?
That one.
Which doll is the pretty doll? Which doll is the nice doll? Which doll is the bad doll? Which doll is the nice doll? And which doll is the bad doll? And why is that doll pretty?
Because she's white and he has two eyes.
Which doll is the ugly doll? Why is that doll ugly?
Because he's black.
Which doll looks most like you?
Like me.
Yeah, which one looks like you?
And that one.
Okay.
That doll.
Can you show me the doll that you like best or that you'd like to play with?
This one. I like that one.
And killing.
This one.
That one?
This one. I like to play with this.
And can you show me the doll that is the nice doll? And why is that the nice doll?
He's white.
And can you show me the doll that looks bad? Okay. And can you and why does that look bad?
Because it's black.
And why do you think that's a nice doll?
Because she's white.
And can you give me the doll that looks like you? "15 out of the 21 children preferred the white doll."
It's really not easy to watch. And I had a conversation with a black person I know, and he told me, he said that it's really common. He said he thinks, it's his experience, but he said black Americans have a kind of a collective inferiority complex. And I'd never really thought of that as being likely, because most of the black people I know are so friendly and generally outgoing and seem positive and upbeat, and they're just nice people, right? They don't seem like they're terribly burdened by this kind of thing. But if I think about the way I grew up, I mean, I'm a 90s kid, and I grew up with gangster rap, and, the stuff on TV was like, the black people were gang members, or they were on the news getting arrested, or they were in rap videos, and it was like not a lot of positive. There weren't a lot of good guys, just upstanding citizens, positive role models. And I think I don't know what it's like in 2015 compared with 1995, but it's not really that good. And I was recently reading. I just finished the book Being Mortal, which is it's a book about dying. And something that was mentioned in the book is socioemotional selectivity theory, which is, let me just bring it up. So socioemotional selectivity theory is a lifespan theory of motivation. The theory maintains that as time horizons shrink, as they typically do with age, people become increasingly more selective in investing greater resources in emotionally meaningful goals and activities. What this was referring to in the book was the way that people behave differently when they think that they're dying, or when they know they're dying. A person who thinks that they have a year to live will behave differently than someone who thinks they have 10 or 20 years to live, or a person who has a month to live. If they know they're going to be dead in a month, they'll behave differently. And it got me thinking about, there's also another concept that comes out of economics, and that's known as the discount rate, which the discount rate takes into account not just the time value of money, but also the risk or uncertainty of future cash flows. The greater the uncertainty of future cash flows, the higher the discount rate. It's, I don't want to get hung up on these terms, but the point with the discount rate and with the other is that the decisions you make depend on how much you value the future. And if your society, some people who grew up in inner city places where it's dangerous and where there's gangs and drugs and all this kind of stuff, their time horizon is very short. Their expectation of their own future is sometimes limited, and so they make the kind of assessment that might not make sense to you, generic white person in my audience, but it does make sense to them, because if you don't think you're going to make it to 30 or 40, then you got to live for now and make the most of it. There are certain people in the YouTube community, as well as elsewhere, saying things like black people should just commit fewer crimes, right? And on a very simple level, on like the most basic level, sure, it would be nice if there were fewer crimes committed, but you have to ignore so much history and a legacy of oppression to just try to simplify it down to people should just commit. They just shouldn't break the law, right? It's not that simple. These things have a certain kind of inertia, right? So the wealth generally begets wealth, and status generally begets more status. And oppression will beget more oppression. If you think about the prominent people, think about the people running for president right now. Look at their family history. Look at Donald Trump, who was gifted $400 million. It was at least $100 million, but I've heard different numbers. But he received this huge inheritance, and yes, he's very wealthy, but he was born rich. Same thing with the Bushes. Their Prescott Bush, I think, was a banker. They've been well off for a long time. These opportunities that were available to the prominent people, most of the prominent people, there have been a series of events that have happened in their life that have allowed for them to get where they are. And those chances, black people on average just don't get as many chances. I want to read a few passages from a book called Faces at the Bottom of the Well by Derek Bell. He was the first tenured professor at the Harvard Law School who's African American. And so he has a unique perspective on this. When whites perceived that it will be profitable or at least cost-free to serve, hire, admit, or otherwise deal with blacks on a non-discriminatory basis, they do so. When they fear, accurately or not, that there may be loss, inconvenience, or upset to themselves or other whites, discriminatory conduct usually follows. We are disadvantaged unless whites perceive that non-discriminatory treatment for us will be a benefit for them. In addition, even when non-racist practices might bring a benefit, whites may rely on discrimination against blacks as a unifying factor and safety valve for frustrations during economic hard times. An example of this I know from my own local history. I live in the Pacific Northwest. Was during the Depression, or Depression era, I guess I should say. White unions. There were no laws that the unions needed to be all white, but they started out all white, and as more black people moved in, they just weren't hired. There was just an understanding within the unions that these jobs aren't for you. So the types of work they could get, the only types of work they could get were service professions. They could get jobs in maybe a restaurant or a bar, or as a bellhop or a maid. Black women, for the most part, worked as maids. The men could, drive a car or something, but I mean, they weren't able to be bankers and businessmen. Black people will never gain full equality in this country. Even those Herculean efforts we hail as successful will produce no more than temporary peaks of progress, short-lived victories that slide into irrelevance as racial patterns adapt in ways that maintain white dominance. This is a hard-to-accept fact that all history verifies. We must acknowledge it, not as a sign of submission, but as an act of ultimate defiance. African Americans must confront and conquer the otherwise deadening reality of our permanent subordinate status. That word permanent, when I saw that, this book was written in 1992, so this is 23 years ago, and there has been progress, and I'll add to some of that toward the end of this video. But he makes some, and this is just the introduction I'm reading from in his book, but he points out some things that they're uncomfortable, that this is not, it's not easy to talk about, it's not easy to come to terms with, but I think it's necessary, and I think that we're at kind of a crisis point right now in our country as it comes to race relations and how we're going to get along with each other. And we need to find some kind of a way to have better conversations, because what's happening right now on the news and between civilians and police, and what's happening, I don't see the politicians doing what really needs to be done. So it's tricky. It's difficult to know who's going to stand up and make a difference, but something's got to change. And I'm not comfortable with what Bell has said, that blacks in America are just a permanent underclass, brought here to be slaves and then remaining permanent underclass. That's not okay. Another factor that's sometimes brought up is redlining, right? And you may have heard of it and never seen it or understood how it worked. But again, what I said about Seattle, there weren't any segregation laws. There weren't laws that said you have to live here, you have to work here, you can't do these jobs and you can't do those. But informally, what ended up happening was you had housing compacts where in something like 80% of the city, around 1960, there were homeowners associations and rental associations that pretty much everywhere outside the central district and I'll show a map of the Central District, you people couldn't get rented. They couldn't buy a house. They couldn't get property. So what ended up happening was pretty much all the black people in Seattle lived in like I think it was like a 10 square block radius or something. It was a very small area. And then, of course, what happens over time when those people are not being given adequate job opportunities is they have worse schools, and everything just goes downhill. So then you have the formation of ghettos. So this is all connected, right? And money. What's the saying, right? It takes money to make money. Well, what do you do if you take a group of people and systematically disenfranchise them for generations? You know, if you've got one family today with $1 million and another family across town, you know, with similar, you know, everything, similar looks and similar intelligence and similar whatever, but the one's got $1 million and the other one doesn't, what does that $1 million give them access to? It gives them access to private school, it gives them access to ability to travel, ability to what they call enrichment activities for children, music lessons and tutoring and every other thing. So that sets up the next generation for success. You know, so the success is there's an inertia to it, and when a group is being prevented over and over by every possible means from succeeding, it's no wonder that as a group they are not doing as well. So when people say, "Oh, you know, there should just be fewer crimes," or they should just try harder, I mean, you have to ignore history to say things like that. What's been happening lately is people have been focusing on kind of the minutia of, you know, we're going to change a police policy, or we're going to change this little thing here or this little thing there. But the bottom line for the black community, for Americans, for African Americans, is that what they need is economic empowerment. They need full economic integration, which is something they've never had. And until that happens, it's tough to see the way forward. There is one upside, and I'll show you this this chart. So you can see the rates of college graduation for different ethnic groups. This tracks the change between the year of 1999 to 2000, and then 10 years forward. So you can see in the most important column is this middle column, percent distribution. In 2000, you can see that 10.9% of associate's degrees went to black people, and then 13.7 10 years later. Down at bachelor's degrees, went from 9.0 to 10.3, master's degrees, 9.0 to 12.5, and at the bottom, doctorate degrees, 6.6 to 7.4. And keep in mind that the black community currently makes up about 14% of the country based on recent census reports. So like if we're looking at bachelor's degrees, at 10.3%, you'd like, you know, if the population is 14% black, to see that, you know, around 14%. But the gain from 9 to 10% in 10 years is, you know, it's encouraging. And then down here, master's degrees, even more encouraging, from 9% to 12.5%, 3.5% up in the last 10 years in master's degrees. That's really good progress. So this is just, you know, something that's been on my mind, and it's bringing a lot of different things together here, and not really in the most organized way possible. I didn't want to do a bunch of different videos on the same subject. I wanted to just kind of lay it all out there and just, you know, find out what people think. Yeah, this is it's a multi-generational problem. It's going to be something that's not just going to go away, but it's not going to go away by just pretending it's not there. Anyway, I'm hoping to do a video soon with Benjamin Dixon from the Benjamin Dixon channel. He runs a He's a radio host and runs a YouTube channel, and he's a prominent voice on these matters, as well as others, but I think he's one of the best voices on this particular topic, and I'll look forward to speaking with him. And thanks for watching, and I'll leave you with Tupac. So, take care.
When you're born, usually you're born into a dynasty or an empire, right? You're born like as a junior or, you know, following in your father's footsteps. You always tell your father, he did this, or your father, or your grandfather, he did this, or we got this, or the family heirlooms. There's none of that in the outer city. I call it the outer city because we left out. There's nothing. We don't get any family heirloom, the family crest, all that stuff that you would think is so important was meaningless. Because I mean, come on. Our family crest was cotton. You know what I'm saying? It's like, man, it's like the only thing we can really leave behind is culture, is music, you know, and dignity and determination. That's what we had. So it's like, I feel as though I'm cheated because instead of me fulfilling my prophecy, I have to start one. Instead of me, you know, doing a good job and carrying on the empire, I have to build one. And that's a hell of a job for a 21-year-old. You know what I'm saying? That's a hell of a job for any youngster, male or female, to have to build an empire for your family. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, especially when the odds is that, you know there's somebody else who lives in the inner city, the real inner city, suburbia, who, when he's born, I mean, 16, he gets a car, automatic. You know, there's money in the bank for college. You know, it's Christmases, go to vacation somewhere. Our vacations was down the street, cross town, grandma house. You know what I'm saying? That was the vacation. Or, you know, or jail, to be even more real. And I hate to make this like sad story, but it's real. Because this world is such a, and when I say this world, I mean it. I don't mean in an ideal sense. I mean in every day, every little thing you do. It's such a, gimme, gimme, gimme. Everybody back off. You know, everybody's like, you taught that from school, everywhere. Big business, if you want to be successful, you want to be like Trump, gimme, 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 push, 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 step, 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 crush, crush, crush. That's how it all is, and it's like, nobody ever stopped. Just, you know, I feel like, instead of us just being like, slavery's bad, slavery's down, bad whitey, bad whitey. I mean, all right, let's stop that. And everybody's smart enough to know that, I mean, we've been slighted, and we want ours. And I don't mean by like hours, 40 acres in the mule, because we're past that. But we need help. I mean, for us to be on our own 2 feet, us meaning youth or us meaning black people, whatever you want to take it for us to be on our own 2 feet, we do need help. Because we have been here, we have been a good friend. If you want to make it a relationship type thing, we have been there, and now we deserve our payback. It's like you got a friend that you don't never look out for. You know, you dressed up in jewels. Now America's got jewels, and they paid and everything, and they lending money to everybody except us. And it's like, you know, everybody need a little help on their way to being, you know, self-reliant. I mean, if this is truly a melting pot in the country where we care about it, and Lady Liberty got a hand like this, she really loves us, then we really need to be like that. And it needs to be the black kids. If there's a white person who got money, then you need to help them. You need to help black kids, Mexican kids, Korean kids, whatever. But it needs to be real. And it needs to be before we all die, and then you say, oh, I made a mistake. We should have gave them some money. We really should have helped these folks. It's gonna be too late. You know what I'm saying? And then that's when you gotta pay your own karma. And that's when God make you punish. When you God punish you. Because I feel like, you know, there's too much money here. I mean, nobody should be hitting lotto for 36 million and we got people starving in the streets. That is not idealistic, that's just real. That is just stupid. There's no way Michael Jackson should have, or whoever Jackson, should have $1 million, $1 billion, and then there's people starving. There's no way. There's no way that these people should own planes and their people don't have houses, apartments, shacks, drawers, pants. I know you're rich. I know you got $40 billion, but can you just keep it to one house? You only need one house. And if you only got 2 kids, can you just keep it to 2 rooms? I mean, why have 52 rooms and you know there's somebody with no room? It just don't make sense to me. It don't. And then these people celebrate Christmas. They got big trees, huge trees, all the little trimmings. Everybody got gifts, and then somebody's starving. And they're having a white Christmas. They're having a great Christmas, eggnog and the whole 9. That's not fair to me. I think that when there's hopelessness, people revolt. Because it's like there's nothing that's like, you know, it's like we're going, is America gonna help us ever? You know, because I mean, we know for a long time they haven't. Are they ever? And it's like all these things are showing us no. And there's somebody going, no, they're not gonna help you. No, they're not gonna help you. And then of course, we seeing, no, they're not helping us. All BS aside, it all comes down to we got to survive. I mean, even warriors put their spears down on Sundays. We got to survive here in this country. Because I'm not going back to Africa. We got to survive here. For us to survive here, white folks, black folks, Korean folks, Mexican folks, Puerto Ricans, we got to understand each other. We got to take a bigger chance. And when I say Americans, people think I'm talking about Uncle Sam. I mean, like, actually Uncle Sam with the gray hair and the flag. I mean, you, the guy, you, the mechanic, wherever, you. I mean, you need to do something. You need to check yourself and see how racist you are. You know what I'm saying? It's real.